I'm Nancy Klimas. I'm at Nova Southeastern University, and I have been working in the field of people who suffer chronic illnesses after acute infections for a long, long time, as an MECFS investigator, and then again for veterans who had been exposed to toxins in their deployment, who also have illnesses very similar to MECFS and long COVID. So you could imagine that in the year 2020, when COVID hit, that we in this group here were saying, uh-oh, here we go again. And in some way you could say serendipity that we happen to already be in this and care a lot about people who've had these terrible illnesses, and that we could anticipate and be maybe more prepared than some to handle what turned out to be the long COVID post-pandemic or whatever pandemic related crisis that so many of you have suffered from and are dealing with. So on one hand, it gave us a head start, which is good for you. That means that already in the field, before COVID even hit, there'd been a fair amount of work done on what happens to people's brains and bodies after they got a viral hit and why things persist. So we weren't starting from zero, which was really important. The other thing that happened during the pandemic, because it was just such a crisis and so many people got ill, that people noticed. You know, in MECFS, there was like the invisible illness. You had to convince people it was even real to get anyone to listen. There's a tremendously misunderstood, underfunded, still today, underfunded, misunderstood group, but less so, because long COVID sadly hit so many people that almost everybody knows somebody who has long COVID. And so a lot of Congress people knew a lot of people with long COVID, and that mattered. A lot of advocates that were advocating efficiently for other things before there was COVID already knew how to advocate and already knew how to use political pressure to develop ways to get the attention that this illness was going to need. And so, as you know, the recovery initiative was born from a very large federal investment, and then pushed a little further along with the second wave of investment, so that almost $2 billion has been invested in long COVID. I know if you have long COVID that you're saying, well, whoop-de-doo, I'm not better yet. But the truth is that from the time that started to this now, it's been less than 3 years. And in 3 years' time, there have been thousands, not hundreds, thousands of articles trying to understand the underpinnings of this illness, develop complex models and ways to better understand how to treat, tease out the subgroups, try to understand why some people stay ill and other people seem to recover. These are all studies underway that are funded, that are well funded, that are well designed. I'll give you an example. In MECFS, I was on the Institute of Medicine panel about 7 or 8 years ago, and they reviewed the entire literature of MECFS. And they said, man, there are hundreds of promising studies here, but there are so few studies that have been validated. So many studies that had 40 or 50 or maybe 100 people in them. And if you look right now in the long COVID literature, these studies aren't small. These studies are definitive. These studies are blowing your mind with the evidence that's clear, strong, well-designed. Because it's well-funded, you can design a really strong study with enough people in it to be able to say, oh yeah, that's the real deal. When you have it designed in a way that you can't argue with the results. So I'd say not only are there a lot of studies in long COVID, there are a lot of studies you can't argue about. So what have we learned? Well, there's a lot of overlap with what I was saying is MECFS or military toxic injuries, and that neuroinflammation is important, that mitochondrial function is important, bioenergetics is important, autonomic function is important. So all these complicated interactive systems are out of sync and leaning in a kind of sick way on each other to stay in a sick balance. So we knew that was happening before, and clearly we expected to see it in long COVID. And yeah, sure enough, there it is. But there's something unique about long COVID that makes us even more hopeful that that kind of knowledge will lead to really outstanding types and targeted interventions that make a real difference. And that's because across the board, it all started with COVID. We know what triggered it. We know what the first weeks and months looked like. We know what the risk factors are that made it more likely to develop long COVID versus recovery. These are all areas of that really help you understand the cascade of events that results in a chronic illness. And it lets you try to do two types of research: protect the future people from getting this. And there's some cool work on prevention, and then take care of the people who are sick now and how to get them better. So one thing we do know is that you can learn a lot from people who recover. So I'll take an example. I saw a patient yesterday in my clinic who was as sick as any sick person could be, totally knocked off their feet for 2 years, in bed, dysautonomic to the point they could barely raise their head, their heart would race, and all the autonomic, blood pressure and cardiac stuff that goes on from that part of it. Lots of inflammation, microclotting, all the mechanisms you read about, all engaged in this person. And yet, over the last 6 months, layer by layer, things are getting better. Why? Because when we can look at the literature and we say, oh my gosh, like these people suffer from microclots and their mast cells are dysregulated and they're this and they're that, gives me as a clinician right now, not a clinician waiting for the evidence-based research with 1,000 people to come out, but right now in an individual, I know what to measure to see if there's something that I could help. Okay, something I didn't know 2 years ago, but I know now because the research taught me where to look. So now better and better quality of care is available. Every single day we're learning about things that help us find ways to treat and make a difference even in the sickest patients. So that's exciting. Now, I will say the most exciting thing will be when someone hits it out of the park, when they say, aha, I pushed this button and that button and that button and boom, all better. And so there are these kinds of studies, and we have one coming up ourselves, that we hope that are, pushing some key feature that may or may not be what's my best example? In HIV, we treated everything, right? People have viral reactivation because their immune systems were really crummy, right? So we treated EBV and all the things that we treat right now. And most of y'all are seeing that you have viruses reactivated, and that's a treatment point. Is it the whole be all and end all of the illness? No, but it's something that's helping keep it going. In HIV, we knew patients suffered from, malnutrition because their GI system got messed up. So we treated their GI system and we really helped the way they could absorb nutrients and improve their healing. But the truth is we never really helped HIV until we discovered the HIV virus. That was important. And that we found very quickly, and from 1984 to 1993, I was in science 7 years, to go from a bug no one even knew before to a bug that had 12, 13 different antivirals. And then we found out what combinations worked. And by 1994, if you had HIV, you were not likely to die from this anymore. Now, in between, personally, in my clinic, we lost more than 1,000 people. It was devastating. But to be there in 1994 and be able to look at someone who was cachectic in a nursing home and say, this is it. This is amazing. And I have a guy right now sent me a picture. He was 88 pounds and he'd given all his stuff away. He was mad. He said, I had to declare bankruptcy, Dr. Klimas, because God damn it, I'm still alive. And I gave all my stuff away and worked my credit cards out to the limit and had a great party before I checked into that nursing home. But he sent me a picture of himself playing basketball and for the first time ever, what's it called when you jump up and dunk? Oh, he dunked a ball. He's playing with a bunch of tall guys. He's kind of short. He was able to get up in the air like a skyrocket and dunk that ball. And he sent me the video and said, "Look at what I can do now." And I was like, "Man, that felt good." Okay, helped him hang on until 1994. He's lots of times when he could have given up, but we got it. And here he is. That's pretty damn cool. So I'm just going to say to you, it takes time. Science is methodical. Science is careful. Science is better the more methodical it is. And the answers will come for you. And they are coming right now, and they're coming fast and furious. So just, and I know it's hard to be patient when you're so terribly ill, but take the hope you need to take, okay? Because we're going to kick this thing. We're going to figure it out. We're going to find the answers for you, and we're going to keep at it until we do. So, hang in there. Let's go. Let's cure this thing. And I'm all about that. So, keep the faith. Take care, y'all. Feel better soon.